The 11th Five-Year Development Plan 2026 to 2030 continues the implementation of Oman Vision 2040, aiming to build a diversified, competitive, and sustainable economy and to gradually transition toward a low-carbon economy. The plan adopts a targeted economic growth rate of around 4% at constant prices and seeks to adhere to a fiscal sustainability approach by maintaining public debt within safe limits, diversifying non-oil revenues, strengthening social development, environmental sustainability, governance, and institutional efficiency, in addition to promoting economic decentralization across governorates and improving labor market efficiency and employment opportunities. The plan adopts a flexible implementation mechanism through 3 work programs, the first from 2026 to 2027, the second from 2028 to 2029, followed by a complementary program in 2030. A new track has been introduced in the development budget for economic transformation projects, with 400 million Oman Riyals allocated annually, raising the total allocations for projects to 1.3 billion Oman Riyals under the 11th Five-Year Development Plan. The plan targets a 4.6% growth rate in GDP at current prices, 4% at constant prices, an investment to GDP ratio of 28% at current prices, foreign direct investment inflows equivalent to 11% to GDP, and an inflation rate not exceeding 2%. The plan also targets a 56% contribution of the private sector to GDP at current prices, a 21% ratio of private investment to GDP, as well as achieving a 4% growth rate in non-oil activities at constant prices, and 2.6% for oil activities. The 11th Five-Year Plan focuses on promising sectors that drive economic growth, including manufacturing industries with a targeted growth rate of nearly 6%, the digital economy at about 11%, and tourism at 5.7%. The average targeted growth rates for supporting sectors include food security at more than 4%, fisheries at 5%, mining at more than 6%, transport and logistics at 7%, education at 3%, and health at 3.5%. The 11th Five-Year Development Plan also requires additional investments estimated at 15.6 billion Oman Riyals, directed toward key economic and social sectors with the aim of accelerating the pace of economic growth.